Well, I want to welcome you to the 6th edition of Everyone Gets a Job. So the program started probably in the fall of 2018, where I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was thinking about how the economic prosperity of Hamden really depends on everyone having a good paying job, no matter what your interest is, no matter how skilled you are, whether you go to college or you go to trade school or you own a business. So we conceived this concept of doing eight panel series on the different economic sectors of Hamden, and the idea is to appeal to the younger generation in particular, particularly grades 5 through 8 before they make decisions about high school. But what's happened over the time of the different sessions is that we have people from the community at large that are interested in the topic. So that's cool. You know, everybody's welcome. So if I can recall, we've covered healthcare, manufacturing, the trades, sustainability and environmental science, et cetera. And we've had a good turnout. As you can see, all the sessions are videotaped. They will be shown at different places around Hamden, and we will be building a web page soon to include all of the videos. So if you missed another session, you'll be able to see them. And they're already being streamed at the Keefe Center down in southern Hamden. We have 2 more series to go, which I'll discuss in a little while. On your table are a couple cards and brochures. I will introduce the speakers as we go along. I've asked the speakers not to talk too much about themselves because the bios are on the table. You can read them for yourselves. Each speaker will talk for about 10 minutes, with the exception of our business owners, who'll get a few more extra minutes. And then we'll leave the mic open for questions. If you have a question, speak louder so Rob can pick it up on the sound editing. And then at the end, we'll leave about 15, 20 minutes for you to speak individually if you'd like with speakers. So with no further ado, we've had a lot of topics that we've discussed, that we've brought in people that deal with this every day in the field. And we try to find a perspective to help prepare people to go into whatever they're interested in to get a good paying job. And we always try to have a business on every panel. And some panels we've had 2 businesses. Hamden has a pretty good entrepreneurial environment. I'm the economic development director for the town, and the town's been very proactive in working with businesses from square one, not just advanced businesses, but businesses that are just getting started. So the first speaker tonight is Richard Pierce, who's been the coordinator of the Business Assistance Center out of my office since 2005. And he will talk about what the BAC does and talk a little bit about some of the stuff that they deal with and give you a bunch of stuff to think about.
Thank you, Dale. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to break up my talk into 3 quick segments. First, let me tell you what we do at the Business Assistance Center. We work with individuals, Hamden residents, who are interested in starting a business to help them start their business correctly. We also deal with established Hamden businesses to either help them deal with whatever issues or impediments they may have in their business and help them to overcome it. We also work with established Hamden businesses to help them go on to the next level. The third group would be those individuals or businesses that are seeking to relocate within our borders. So that's our client base. Over the years, we've worked with over 300 business situations. Some have been quite successful, and I'm not going to drop names, but a few of them have become established Hamden go-to places, if you will, that you would all recognize and know. I'm going to start by being very elementary here and giving you a definition of what an entrepreneur is. I assume you all know, but just in case. The dictionary describes an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages a business as an individual or a partnership, taking the risk of not making a profit and getting the profit when there is one, or one who undertakes to start and conduct an enterprise or business usually assuming full control and risk. So that's a pretty broad general definition of what an entrepreneur is. What do we do at the Business Assistance Center when one comes in and expresses a desire to start a business? Well, the first thing we talk about is, number one, what it is they are seeking to do. Most people that get into business, either they get into it for one of two reasons. Either because they have a passion or an idea that drives them to want to start a business, or quite honestly, as the last alternative. They've been laid off, they can't find another job, and starting a business becomes their go-to. I'm not here to say what is right or wrong, but that's the reality that we're faced with. So the first thing we need to do is to ascertain whether the individuals coming in, besides having the desire or lack thereof and just being desperate, whether they have any background or skill set in the area in which they want to start. You would be surprised how many people come in and say, "Oh, Mr. Pierce, I would like to start a restaurant." And then my first question is, well, that's great. Do you have any restaurant experience? Well, no, but I like people and they like me. Okay. You haven't been a server or cook? No, but people like me. That doesn't give me a good, warm, and cuddly feeling about their chances of success. So the first thing we do is give people a reality check and make them aware that you have to have more than just a wish. You have to have some basic knowledge, some basic background in order to have a chance of succeeding. Even having that background, education, and experience does not ensure that you will succeed, but at least it gives you a shot. The next thing I often hear is, "Oh, Mr. Pierce, if I can only get a loan for $100,000, my business will be the greatest thing since sliced bread." Then I ask them, well, why $100,000? Oh, well, my buddy on the street told me that that was the most that I could get, so I figured I'd go for that. Again, not a good reason. In order to determine what amount of money is needed to start a business, number one, you need to do a written business plan. One of the components of that business plan would be financial projections, cash flow projections, profit and loss projections. The cash flow projection is just not an academic tool, but it is a practical use tool. It will help you to identify what that dollar level is that you need to put into your business to carry its cash flow until the cash flow of the business is significant and substantial enough that it can carry the business. Any lender that you go to will insist upon a written business plan, which includes cash flow projections and profit and loss projections. If you go to Aunt Mary or Aunt Sally to borrow, they should also want to see a written business plan to determine your seriousness and also to determine if you have thought through all the issues that you will face once you get your business started. And again, I can't emphasize enough, does writing a business plan ensure you will be successful? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. But by not writing the business plan, you have greatly increased your likelihood of failure. Okay? I'm going to move on from the business plan, and we can handle that in question and answer period if you have any specific questions. But I'd like to move on to the next thing that we guide our clients towards, is selecting the correct business type. Now, there are many options available. Sole proprietorships, that is you. Typically, we call it doing business as. You've heard the expression DBA. That would be you doing business as something. You would operate using your social security number. You and your business are one and the same. That's good news, bad news. If there is any chance of a lawsuit against your business, all of your personal assets are exposed because in the eyes of the law, you and your business are one and the same. Next up the food chain would be a partnership. A partnership is just you and any other people. It doesn't limit you to 1, 2, or 3. Some people think of a partnership as 2 or 3. It could be a partnership of hundreds. What happens in a partnership, typically someone becomes the general partner. Now, the good news is that in a partnership, if you have a written partnership agreement, you can spread some of that risk among the partners. But the general partner typically takes the total liability for anything that may befall the company. The next step up would be LLCs or LLPs. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. Many people call it Limited Liability Corporation. That's wrong. It's Limited Liability Company. That gives you and your business separation as legal entities. When you form an LLC in the state of Connecticut, you form it at the Secretary of State's office. The LLC must get a federal tax ID number. That number, think of as your LLC's, your business's social security number. You should also get general liability insurance to further protect yourself. But in the event of a suit against the LLC, typically your personal assets would be protected. The other option would be corporations, subchapter S, or C corporations. Again, it separates you legally from your company. The corporate status has become less popular since the advent of the LLCs because corporations are typically taxed at a higher tax bracket than we are as individuals. As an LLC, the LLC is taxed based on your individual tax bracket. So that's a quick run through there. The last thing I'll just quickly run through are options for you when starting a business. Do you start a business from scratch? Maybe, maybe not. What's the advantage and disadvantage? The advantage of starting a business from scratch is it's your baby. You are inventing it. You can mold it in the image that you desire. Think of it as birthing and raising a child with all the inherent risks that go with that. The downside is because you are starting fresh, there is no roadmap for you to follow. You are developing it as you go. So you have the plus of making it your own, the negative, you're out there a little bit winging it. On the other scale would be purchasing, or the other side of the scale would be purchasing an existing business. That is a little less risky in that an existing business has already established a clientele, trademarks, customers. They're branded, so to speak. So you don't have to go through all of that as you would as if you were starting from scratch. But that can also be a negative, because if that brand, if those customers are not the brand image that you would like to have or the customer base that you would like to have, you're pretty much stuck with them. And it's difficult to change a brand once it's been established. And the last thing I'll talk about is the in-between, buying a franchise. Buying a franchise gives you the best of both worlds. You are sort of on your own. However, the franchisor, the company that you are buying, they have established procedures, they have established policies, they have established supply sources. And typically you as the franchisee must follow their roadmap. So they've more or less worked out the kinks, and they have laid out this map for you to follow. The negative about buying a franchise is that your earning potential is going to be surprisingly limited. because there are things that you will not be allowed to do. You cannot go to just any supplier because they're cheaper. You need to go to where McDonald's or Burger King tells you to go to. And it's not easy. As a franchisee, you need to be in your place of business as many hours as possible because things have a tendency to walk out the back door. It's not as easy or as glamorous as one would think. So with that, I will pass the mic back to Dale. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Before I go to the next speaker, one of the things that's become prevalent in many communities in Connecticut, and it's definitely true in Hamden, is that we have a lot of business owners that are retiring. Some people call this the gray tsunami. This is true in many different manufacturing businesses, in engineering, in very skilled professions, but it's also true in businesses where business owners are retiring. So we're trying to get the younger generation of people interested. I'll do an infomercial later about a project that we are working on that will hopefully spark that interest. One of the features of, one of the things that Rich and I have run into through the years at the Business Assistance Center is that people come in and a whole spectrum of skill sets on how much they know about business and economics and finances. They're probably hard workers. They're probably good at what they do. But when it gets to the business plan and all the things that Rich talked about, so it's important to start from the beginning. Sometimes with people, we refer people out if we feel that they're not prepared, and their financial literacy is really in question sometimes, and it's important to get young people especially, but even younger adults, to really understand what financial literacy means so they're really prepared to go forward and not end up with a big debt and no business. So I'm going to turn it over to the next speaker, Mark Stevens.
Thanks, Dale. And I'm here to talk about financial literacy. It's a great segue into that. So, again, my name is Mark Stevens. I'm a financial advisor, a certified financial planner. I work for Waddell & Reed, a company here in Hamden. I've been doing this almost 20 years. And really what I want to talk about today is really what I do as a financial planner, how I do it, and why you may need a financial planner. And most people think of financial planning and they immediately think of stocks and bonds, right? And investing and losing money in the market and ups and downs. And while that's a piece of what we do and a component, I think a lot more of what I do and financial planners do is really just help people make good financial decisions. I think in today's environment, people are so prone to make poor decisions with their finances, and not because they want to, it's just a lot of times they just don't know. They don't know the options that are available. So I'm going to spend some time kind of talking about the process that we take people through and some of the common mistakes that we see, or I see as a financial planner, that individuals make. Most of my business involves individual clients, although we do work with some small businesses. So it's a lot of personal finance that we do. And the process that we take people through is really helping to understand their financial situation, what type of income they have, what type of liabilities they may have, what their goals are financially, if it's starting a business or if it's retiring at a certain age, and making sure that they have a roadmap or a plan to get there. Some of the common mistakes I think that people make is they start to fall into misuse of credit, misuse of debt. And sometimes that starts at a very early age, many times in high school. Where people will not pay their bills or not understand how a credit card works, or get into trouble with student loans and not realize that going to college costs money and that has to be paid back at some point. And those decisions sometimes can impact a person's future, whether it's starting a business, whether it's applying for a job. Credit is such a huge part of our society today as we move into technology and credit cards and move away from cash. People feel like they're able to buy things that sometimes they can't afford. So working on a budget is really one of the most basic aspects of financial planning, and some of the things that we work on with clients, and making sure that they know how much income's coming in and they know how much income's going out. Very similar to how a business would operate. As Rich was mentioning, knowing what your inflows are and what your outflows are, and being able to not only understand that, but manage that. The second thing that we try to focus people on is setting them up on a saving strategy right from the beginning. And we call this strategy pay yourself first. So instead of paying all your bills and trying to save what's left over, which many people try to do, and it's very difficult to do, the strategy is simple. It's pay yourself first. Set aside an amount of money that you want to save or you can afford to save, and do that first. and then pay all your bills. And then if you spend everything that's left over, well, at least you saved first. And saving, particularly for some longer goals like a retirement, it's not about, saving the most amount of money. It's about the consistency of saving year in and year out. And if you can save 5% of your pay from the time you work until retirement, you're going to be fine. To try to catch up at the end is very challenging and almost impossible, and you'll never catch up to the person that started early on in saving. So I think that's a common strategy that we use with people, is just making sure that they're paying themselves first through that process, and then making sure that they're putting their money in the right types of investments. And this is where it gets into the kind of the product side. You'd use mutual funds and stocks and bonds, and ensuring that you're not trying to save for a long-term goal using a short-term tool. So it would be, trying to save in a savings account for retirement when that's really not the right option for people. So those are some of the things that we do. And how we do it is, again, we take people through a planning process where we identify their goals, make sure that they understand, or that we understand what they're trying to do, and then work with them on a regular basis. I think, having a financial advisor, people will come to us and say, well, I don't have any money. I don't need an advisor yet. Well, that's the exact reason why you do need an advisor, is so that you have more money. And working with somebody on an ongoing basis, I think, will help build a relationship. So as you make financial decisions, you'll have somebody to go to bounce ideas off of, to give you options and different strategies that you may not have thought about before. So those are some of the advantages of working with a financial advisor like myself. Let's see. And I think that'll probably wrap up what I'd like to say about financial literacy right now. I'll hand it back to Dale.
And I've thought of about 5 questions for Mark for later on, so we'll get to it. So one of the great things about Hamden is we have some really innovative programs in our public school system. And I'm going to introduce Brian Anderson, who is the advisor and coordinator and originator, at least in Hamden, of the DECA program, and he'll explain all about it. This is a great training ground for our young people in the high school, and Hamden has one of the most successful programs in the state of Connecticut. So I'm going to turn it over to Brian Anderson.
Thank you, Dale. My name is Brian Anderson, and I teach marketing at Hamden High School, and I also run the DECA program, and my students run our retail store. We basically specialize in apparel, both in, brick and mortar store as well as online. I came to Hamden High School in 1998, so I'm in, I believe, my 21st year at Hamden. And during this time, as Dale said, we've been very successful. Our students have been very successful. We've had over 400 students win in state competition with, I would say, probably 35 that have been in the international finals, which means that they made the top 16 in the world. And I think we probably had about 18 students that have made top 10 in the world. And we've had, 2 firsts, a second, and 2 thirds international. Last year we had an international third and a international second in the same year. So it was a very big year. Some of the things that we try to teach them is kind of a general business class with a concentration in marketing and entrepreneurship. And I've been very fortunate to have Dale and Rich and Mark come in quite often and work with the students and share their expertise, which has been really helpful. We talk about financial literacy, and we talk about investing early, as you said. And I show them, if they start from the moment they get out of college, and if they even save just for the first 10 years versus somebody who waits 10 years and then starts investing, and what a difference it is. So if you can, as Mark said, if you can invest early, I can show them how they could literally be a millionaire when they retire. And we talk about credit and credit cards and mortgages and 30-year versus a 15-year mortgage, and the dangers of credit cards. But we also talk about primarily entrepreneurship. So the students write 30-page business plans for me, and they're phenomenal. I'm very tough with them, and they have to be probably better than most college students would do. And I have a few here that I can circulate around the room later, and you can see them. This is, I brought a couple of pictures. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but this is, and I'll pass this around as well. This is an international first place that we had a couple of years ago, and they did a food truck. And they took first place, and there's 235,000 students in DECA. 22,000 make it to the international conference, and then they go top 16, 10, and then 3, 2, 1, and they actually won it in 2014. That was our last international first. And then last year, this is a great photo if you can see it, we had international second, and he did a startup business. And his business, this is Ramon, and he did a project very similar to Blue Apron, but it was primarily for desserts and trying to bring families to the kitchen, get off their phones, spend time together. And he was just phenomenal. If you can see the picture, he wanted it pretty bad. So he's pretty excited. He's doing very well in college right now, as all of them are. Like I said, I have a few samples of some business plans. One of the things that we do, and I think I put one on every table, is DECA has actually switched to what they call the lean business model. And these are actual business plans that they have to write. But the lean business model is kind of like a starting point where you first start off by who's your customer, the demographic, psychographic, geographics, what's the niche that you're trying to reach, who specifically is your customer. Then you get into what are the top 3 problems that your product or service your company is going to solve. Why do you exist, why the customers want you. And then from there it goes into the revenue stream and talks about the lifetime value of a customer once you acquire them, the revenue, the gross margin. It gets into solutions. What are the top 3 features of your product or service, again, that's going to solve those problems and make the customer want to come back. Then we get into unique value proposition, which is just a clear, simple message that states what you are, what your company is, your product, your service, and what makes you different, and why should the customer buy yours versus another company. And from there, then we go into channels. How do you reach your customers, whether it's internet or a retail store or a kiosk or a food truck. And then the next step is we go into the key matrix, which is how to evaluate your success. Once you've started the business, how do you know you're succeeding? It's not necessarily just a bank account or your sales. There's other indicators as well. You should constantly do your research, from the beginning and throughout the entire business. Then we get into the cost structure, and we talk about distribution costs, human resource, all the different costs associated with the different types of business, and even acquisition costs. What does it cost you to acquire a customer? And then what's the lifetime value? Once you acquire that customer, and that customer is a regular, how much are you going to make from that customer? And, I always tell my students, it costs more to get a new customer than to, it costs more to get a new customer than to keep an existing one. So you want to keep your customers happy. And I think that's pretty much it for the last one is the competitive advantage. What advantage do you have over your competition? Why should people come to you, and will they copy you? If you open up a food truck, can somebody open up a food truck and put you out of business? I actually have a former student that opened up a business, and about a mile away, somebody opened up in a better building and put her right out of business. And she had a great product. So that's basically the model that we use. And then the students just turn it into a business plan. And in the case of my students, they actually go and they compete at the state level. And if they finish first, second, or third, then they go on to international competition. So this year we have 27 that are actually going this month to Orlando. So I think that's pretty much.
And what's tonight, Brian?
What is tonight? Oh, tonight we're having a fundraiser at which I should be at, but at the Playwright. So the students can raise some money for the cost to go to the international conference because it can be expensive. But it's an amazing experience to have 22,000 people in one big facility. Thank you.
So a freshman coming into Brian's program is, 14 years old, and let's see, 12 years from now, 14 years from now, what do we hope that they're doing? We hope that they're buying a house, raising children, investing in the community, becoming a part of the civic infrastructure. So it's really important to work with the young people that Brian has from an early age, and I'm always very happy to work with Brian in whatever way we can help. We did a Shark Tank thing a couple of years ago, which was hilarious, but it was very interesting to see. They had shoelaces, if I recall, and they had to do something with shoelaces, and 3 of them had PowerPoint presentations on what to do with shoelaces, and they only had a few days to do it. But anyway, this is a great asset that Hamden has, and anybody watching this video should get in touch with Brian as their children enter Hamden High School. So the next speakers are Lorraine Adams and Sean Harris, who are business owners on Dixwell Avenue. Their computer business is not just repair, it's a lot of different services, a lot of different things. I'm going to turn it over to them to talk for 15 or so minutes about what their business is like, some of the pitfalls, and do an infomercial about themselves. Happy to have it. So,
Hi, my name is Lorraine. I'm a consultant and a business owner for Quick Tech Computer Repairs. We're located at 1418 Dixwell Avenue, and we repair computers. We do networking. We also do web hosting and domain names for small businesses and entrepreneurs. Mainly what I do is most of the consulting and the web designs. Helping the small business owners is where I'm more targeted at, because a lot of times they don't have the money to go with a lot of digital media, to get put on the web. So sometimes they want to really be able to learn what it is so that they can maintain it themselves. So that's what I do. So the other part where the repairs are, I do repairs now as needed, but before I used to do a lot of hands-on repairs in the shop when it first opened up. We've been around since 2003. We became LLC in 2008, and we picked up a trade name, Quick Tech LLC, in 2009. It was a little rough at first because we had no money. I started out as home-based business, and I would go out. My first job was a job that I intended to work the rest of my life, but it really wasn't going that way. What I wanted out of it was more. Working for someone at that time when I first came in was not ideal for me because I really wasn't able to be a benefit to people in the community and other small businesses. So my passion kicked in where I really wanted to help those people that really wanted to stand up. So I had to step down from trying to get a job as a computer repair person or a consultant for someone else, for another large business where I thought would pay me and I would be happy. I didn't see it. So the first job that I had, it was nice, it was good, but it taught me a lot. And it taught me that there were some things that I need to open up and let go. And one of those things was to, be able to work in that environment amongst other people that I really had to compete with. And I don't think I wanted to compete for, a job. I really wanted to help other people that really wanted to be doing things, starting their own businesses, getting on the web, having the web presence, and having somebody to really walk them through that. I started my web design back in Gateway Community College when it was on Long Wharf, and my first design class was really fantastic. That's when I knew I really had a passion for wanting to not do it at a job, but do it for myself. So when my entrepreneurial skills kicked in and I said, oh, well, wow, this is something that I really like, that I'm passionate about, that I wanted to do, I started doing that a little bit, but then the next thing came where my hands was just like, my computer was broken and I couldn't find anybody that would fix it reasonably for me. That was my breaking point right there. I went back to school, and I went to Gibbs College, and I got my associate's degree in network and computer management. When I left there, I had a lot of hands-on skills, so it was very important for me to put my hands on it. I've learned how to do a whole lot of things that I didn't think would be necessary until I decided I want my own business. When I decided I wanted my own business, the web design kicked in, computer repairs kicked in. Sean hadn't come yet. So I was basically working out of home. So finding money was really kind of hard. So I did work a part-time job, but saving money to get a business that really wasn't doing it. So I had to really find out, how was I going to get my name out there? How are people going to know about me? You know, how do I do this? So I went to the Small Business Administration. I did get some help from them. I did learn a lot from them, but after going there for 3 years and it wasn't really producing anything, and it's like I was going in circles, I started really reaching out, seeking other places. So my first client, my first consultant job was for networking. And after designing the network and doing a lot of things, and then when a bigger project came, and I was looked over because I was female, and I didn't have certain certifications that they were looking for, but I was able to do the job, you know, they took my ideals. Well, they still paid me, but someone else really actually got the big job for it. But I was okay with that because I learned something. So after learning that it's going to be tough out there and it's going to be competition, whether I work for myself or I work in a company with someone, you know, the two are going to be different. One is I'm going to be competing with, you know, the people that I work for, you know, and then the other one is I'm going to be competing for people outside. So I had to learn a lot about the market and who was going to be my competition. So there was a whole lot of things that I had to go through. So just a few of the pitfalls, but I learned a lot from them. So it made me kind of a little bit more firm with how I want to organize myself, how I want to do this. You know, who's going to be my audience? I already knew that. There were people out there older than me that was coming into technology. They was lost. They was like, everything is changing. They just wanted somebody to help, and to get somebody to really help them, you really got to listen to what they're asking you. You know, and a lot of people, they want help, but they really want somebody to listen. So I felt like if I put my business in that type of shoes of listening and hear what the people want, I thought maybe I can do this. So I started out and I tried to do my little business plan, and my business plan fell through a few times because I wasn't connected to the right source. So in 2008, when I did get connected to the right source, my reality check came. And when my reality check came, I looked at what I thought was a business plan, which was like 12 pages. He's right. It's going to be about 30 pages. And it's going to be done over and over and over again until you actually see that you're speaking your business plan into existence. Got that from Richard Pierce. So after working on it and going through it, I realized that, okay, we don't have any money. So now Sean was in the picture. So I'm still working my little part-time job, but I'm still doing my consultant. But one of the pitfalls from that was that we had no startup money. Okay, we're a startup company, but there was no money. So the money that I was making from the business at home, it was coming, it was helping. So we were putting some aside. So I wasn't paying myself first. I wasn't following that rule. So I was taking care of everything else first, trying to make it work. So when I started putting things in reverse and doing it differently, I went back to Richard, and I talked to Richard. So he was a big help. And one of the things that really got me was when he asked me about, you know, the cash flow. When he was pointing things out in the business plan. I mean, it's not just a plan. I mean, it's literally walking through like you're doing it now, you know, not in the future. It's something that you're doing right now. And while you're doing it and you're writing it, you're putting stuff down, you'll be taking stuff out and you'll be putting stuff back, and then you realize, I am actually walking this through to where it's going to really actually exist. And that's exactly what I did. So after going through and doing it, and I see that, okay, this can work, I can do this, I stopped trying to find a job in the computer field. And I became a business owner. And I started thinking like a business owner. And I started feeling like one. And the customers, I think we might have been open, you know, just renovating the place. And we wasn't ready for customers, but they just started coming. So the work that I had started doing outside before we got there, which was home-based, some of those people asked, do we have a location yet? That was very important to them. Here I am, a person nobody knows. I'm doing computer repairs. Where's your shop? You know, where do we go? I couldn't tell them I was doing it in my living room. You know, so a lot of times I had to go out. So that was another pitfall of, you know, coming into the business. So as a business owner, yes, you can start as a home-based business, but when it starts growing, you're not going to want certain people coming to your house. So you want to start thinking differently. So when someone asks you, well, where can I bring it? Because they don't want you coming to their house. So now you start thinking about the customer a little bit more. So now when you start thinking, you got to start expanding. So now we have to find a place that's going to be in our budget, and we had no money. So we're back to square one again, is finance. So after doing the business plan, going through it and revising it, and making sure that I'm really looking at it and looking at exactly what we're going to do and where's the money coming from. After sitting down looking at it, and with a sharp pair of eyes, you know, and someone else helping you, you'd be surprised what you can actually see on paper. You can actually see the money coming before it gets there if you're doing it right. But you have to work with someone that knows this. We've been in business now for 9 years, and the business is debt-free. We have no loans. We have no credit cards in the business name. The business pays for itself. It pays us, and we're doing pretty well. The customers like us. You know, we get a lot of good reviews. You know, we get a lot of repeat customers, and they're happy. I think the main part of their happiness is that we're there, we're local, you know, and we're reasonable. So most of the time it's for us, it's helping them. And the cost is really not that bad because we don't really have to worry about the competition right now. Because we're the only true computer repair on Dixville Avenue. Other places up here are doing cell phones and computers. So when people come in, no, we don't do cell phones. It's strictly computers, networking, web design, domain names, anything that you want to start to get your small business running. One thing I forgot to mention is that when I started repairing the computers, I started repairing it so that when I got out there, I would be able to walk someone else through bringing their business online. If your computer's not working, you have a place to go fix it that's going to be reasonable because you're starting up. And a lot of us didn't have that. So that's what I wanted to bring to the table. Could you stop that?
My name is Sean. I'm the other half of Quick Tech, LLC. Lorraine is also my wife. So when I came along, she already had started the business, and I was trying to find my way. So once I met her, I was able to settle down and figure out what I needed to do because she was doing something that I wanted to do. I just didn't have the opportunity to do it. So I got a certification, college certification from Gateway. I have a college associate degree, networking from Gateway, CompTIA A+ technician certifications, Network Plus certifications, and various other certifications, about 5 or 6 other ones. I'm working on some low voltage, will be working on some low voltage electrical to bring into the business, to bring in more business and to provide more services for my clients. And I'm also going to start doing telephoning, which is a lot of the businesses need, which I will be doing that soon as well, learning how to do that to get certifications in that. So we do computer repair. I do computer repair. I'm mostly in the shop myself from 12 o'clock to 6. Sometimes I'm out earlier during the day. The official hours are 12 to 6, but I'm out during the day around 9 o'clock. I have businesses all up and down Dixville Avenue, all over in Hamden and New Haven and various other places that I'm out visiting in the morning to make sure that they're okay. So I go in and I visit everybody, just say hi, everything running okay, you need anything, Okay, and then I hang around for a while just in case something goes wrong. Then I move on to the next customer and I go visit them. I'm very well known in Hamden. I'm a part of the Hamden Chamber. Everybody in Stop and Shop knows me. Everybody in in that area knows me. I'm always around. Staples, I do all the work for Staples a lot of times. I'm the one that set up their tech station in there years ago. I was just in there recently setting up their computers in the manager's office and the printing department. I did the computers there for them as well, for their company that they hire as their national contractor. I do a lot of national contracting work. I'm a Microsoft partner. I'm a Comcast authorized dealer, home and business. So I'm always around. I'm always doing stuff. I'm always here if you need me. When you call the shop, if I'm not there, there's a sign on my door that says, just call me. I'm out doing service calls because I'm the only one there. You can always reach me, no matter what time it is. If it's late, then, reasonable time is okay. If you call the shop, the phone will forward to my cell phone. And then I want to talk to you. Even if I'm not there, just call me. I want to talk to you so I can say, hey, I'm doing this, I'll be back at this time. I do home visits. I do home and small businesses. I have a contract already to do some work for public television, which we're going to be doing their network equipment on Monday. So I'm trying to get bigger businesses to look at us. If you want to know more about me, you can find us at quicktech.com. And Lorraine, and you can also look at my reviews. We know we have very good reviews. Everyone likes us. I'm always here for you. And the IT field is very vast. So if you have any questions that you want to know about getting your children or anything like that into the field, you can always ask me. I have some information here for you. And just call me. I'm always willing to talk to you. Thank you.
Follow me, Rob. Okay. So before we get to question and answers, I have a couple infomercials I'd like to just let you know about. First of all, the town of Hamden is going to launch a business incubator in the summer, this coming summer. It's the location of the old Newhall Community Center on the corner of Morris and Newhall Street. And that will be for small startups. We will be employing the skills of many of the people that were on these panels, including some of the folks tonight. We're marketing it in all different places. We're really looking for primarily the younger generation, let's say 20 to 35. But again, other people who start businesses later in life, and we'll be marketing it to it. And I've even talked to Brian about bringing back some of the alumni from DECA. Some of them have really, really become successful. I follow them on LinkedIn, and it's wonderful to see that they came through the Hamden Public School System and through Brian's program, and they're a great source of marketing for the incubator, either as potential tenants or even as advisors. Richard will be the mentor, the business mentor at the incubator. This is the 6th of 8 series. We've had a lot of different successes. Make sure you sign in tonight and put your email clearly so I can read it. And we'll send you the links to all the videos to date. Coming up after tonight will be 2 more. The second half of May, we will have one on information technology. We'll have some interesting speakers on that one. And the very last one will probably be around June 1st, will be on job readiness, particularly about how young people should be prepared to interview, how to dress, how to look people in the eye, how to not look at their cell phone, and all sorts of things. So before we get into questions, I just want to improvise a little bit and introduce an old friend of mine and give him 2 minutes to do an infomercial. Frank Alvarado works for the Small Business Administration, and just give us a couple minutes.
Thanks, Dale. Good evening. Frank Alvarado, the Senior Area Manager for the U.S. Small Business Administration, working out of the Bridgeport Federal Building. I'm also the Veterans Affairs Officer, which means that I work with veterans throughout the state that want to start a business or own a business. The SBA is a federal agency that supports small business in the country. Here in the state, we have 2 offices, Bridgeport and Hartford. We're a small staff of only 9 people. but we were able to work with about 27,000 people last year because we have a network of resource partners. So our resource partners are essentially our counselors, our advisors to the general public. The big thing about our organization is that all the services we provide are absolutely free. So we work on the 3 C's: capital, the money you need to open and grow your business; counseling, the advice you need to maintain your business; and contracting. If you're in business for a while and you want to do business with the state or federal government, we're the agency that can help you teach you how to do that. And we have great success with that. So I'll leave it at that. I have some literature here. Happy to answer any questions as we go through the Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank, and pick up one of his brochures before you leave tonight. So this is time for questions and answers. Before I ask you, I have one. I'm going to start with Mark. Questions? Okay. So this gentleman here in the back with the baseball hat. Okay. How old are you, sir? 12. So 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. So in a couple years, he will be coming to high school. And we want to start teaching. I think Brian starts to do it through DECA, but not all kids go to DECA. So if you were advising this gentleman here in a couple years as he gets to high school about, what he should start learning how to think about at their level, what would be 1 or 2 or 3 things you would have them do in sort of to get ready to deal with money and things related to money?
Good question, Dale. I don't know. Really, in regards to money, especially, I have young children myself. My daughter's she's a junior this year in high school. So we've been trying to teach her, and my son is a sophomore in college. So I've tried to teach them a little bit about money along the way. And I think the first thing would be to try to start saving, even if it's just a little bit of money. Saving is such an important part of a habit, a great habit to get into at a very young age. So financially, I think it would be saving. If I would, and I've counsel you on a little bit of I guess, life advice too. I think one of the most important things young people can have is the ability to communicate with adults. I find that all the time that young people are kind of intimidated by adults sometimes. And if you can figure out and take classes and courses and push yourself to be able to communicate well with adults, you have such a huge advantage over your peers. And I look at myself. I remember myself in high school. I was a terrible communicator. I even in college, I wasn't a good communicator. But I put myself in uncomfortable situations and allowed myself to make mistakes and became a little bit better of a communicator. So as you're going into high school, don't be afraid to talk to people, ask questions, and save your money.
You want to add to that?
Yeah, I'd love to. The advice that I have is pay your bills on time. Watch your FICA score, your cell phone bill, everything. Make sure you make your payments on time. Don't miss any.
Anybody else want to add to that? I know you did.
Another thing about finance, if you know exactly what it is you want to do, then you can start planning for it, because sometimes when you don't plan for it, you do this thing, you don't like it, you might put money into it or time into it. That's still an investment that could bring you money. That's a bad pitfall. If you already know what it is you like, you have a passion for it, and you want to do it, invest in that, because a lot of fly-by thoughts will be expensive.
Okay, audience, questions? Speak it out, because I'll repeat the question, but go ahead.
Hi, my name is Juan Lozada. I'm a local around here. I'm an alumni from Hamden High School 2008. I know DECA very well. So Sebastian McCall on 2 classes with you. I'm trying to get out of the workspace that I'm in right now, because I'm just moving from job to job to job. And instead of being affluent financially, I'm very stagnant. As mentioned earlier, instead of trying to get a better job, I'm in a position where I'm potentially trying to make my own business for finances. Since I am in such a situation, I don't have, at least right now, the luxury of thinking of what it is that I want to do. What would your advice be to try to start a business for the sake of just going into a better financial situation?
So the question is, where do you begin when thinking about starting a business? What's some of the first steps, and what's the thought process involved? Am I about right?
Especially if you don't have much of a choice or a want of business.
The true startup. Who wants to tackle this one? Rich?
Just for clarification, you're saying that you know that you want to do something, but aren't sure what it is you should do?
Yes.
Okay.
I just know I don't like what I'm doing now.
Well, I'll ask you a question. What is it that you do enjoy doing?
I've always been a creator. I went to school for illustration, and then 2008 happened. Student loans crashed through for my parents. They pulled me out a year and a half early, and I kind of got stuck with the loans since they couldn't pay for it. More things happen. Everyone has their sob story. But I've always have been trying to get into more of the creative fields. Unfortunately, that career requires a lot of networking. Your stuff can be the greatest thing, but no one's going to know you next year on the market if you don't know anyone. No one's going to read your stuff if they don't know who you are.
Well, the first thing that I would say is do not start a business just for the sake of starting a business and trying to earn money. You, I would say, should focus your attention on your passion, the illustration. Yes, you know more about it than I by far, and it probably does require a lot of networking. If you're passionate about it, if you have a certain skill level, then pursue it. There are ways of getting the word out that may not cost you a lot of money. You can begin by illustrating, I don't know, websites or something, business cards for friends that may have businesses, flyers, go to non-for-profit organizations, learn something about the organization, then come up with a sample, an illustration of a brochure or something that they may, in fact, pay you for. So there are ways to achieve what you want, but it all starts with really, and I can't emphasize this enough, writing a business plan. But in your case, before we even get there, you have to identify what you're going to pursue. And just based on us talking briefly, it appears that the creative side is what stirs you. Illustration is your passion. Go for it. Go for it. You know, you don't turn around 20 years from now and regret that you didn't go for it. Go for it now, but go for it in a smart way. And, you know, we can help you at the Business Assistance Center to help you organize your thoughts, to help you write a business plan, to give you a strategy to follow. It's not going to cost you money to meet with me. The town pays for my freight. If you are a Hamden resident, if you are seeking to start your business within Hamden's borders, we can work with you. But follow your passion.
So just to reemphasize, the service through the Business Assistance Center is free for Hamden residents. Richard will attest to this. We've worked with people literally for a year, you know, just because, you know, you're doing other stuff, but you're trying to find your passion. And we work with people. The only one we actually shut off Richard's services was a hookah lounge, which got a little crazy because they just couldn't pull the trigger. They worked on their business plan, but it became a monetary thing. It wasn't anything to do with the hookah lounge, but it would have been a successful business. But generally speaking, and people come and go. They're with Richard for a while, then they try stuff, they work on it. And if it takes you 3, 4, 5 months, volunteering your time. I was thinking crowdsourcing when you were talking, because crowdsourcing platforms have some of the platforms focus on the arts as a business, as a way of promoting yourself and networking. So there's probably some things you should do, but make an appointment with him tonight to come in and spend some time. It will not cost you any money, which is the good news. Any other questions? Yes, we want to add to that.
Thanks, Tim. I currently have a student now who's into graphic design. He wants to do it in college. So he's actually, for the last couple of years, he's had an online business where he designs T-shirts and he sells them online. And he's actually quite successful. And he's buying equipment. He's not outsourcing anymore. He's doing it himself. So go online, set up an online store.
Well, I know who you are since we've done business together. You've been in the shop a couple times when he was a little younger. So as they said, you have to do something that you're passionate about. I enjoy doing what I'm doing because I love doing it. So it doesn't seem like it's work to me. You know what I mean? So in the according to USC News, one of the top technology jobs is web developer. So what you do is like number 6 is the median salary is what, $68,000 a year. That's if you want to work for somebody. But if you want to do your own thing, you could start online. You can do a lot of things, graphic design, but you have to pinpoint what it is that you enjoy doing, and then go from there. You know what I mean? You got to come up with something that you want to do, because if you bounce around, before you know it, 5 years will go by, 10 years will go by, and then like Richard said, at a time will fly by like this, and you're gonna regret that you never started. Do it. You know what I mean? Just do it. Or you're going to be sitting here in 5 years saying the same thing.
Do you have children? Okay, now you really should do it. It's really important while you don't have those obligations, because it gets tougher. If I've always, as Richard knows, I'm always trying new things, but I still have the responsibilities I have to take care of first. But now's the time to do it. I think that's the biggest message you're getting from the whole panel giving you answers. Other questions? How about this side? Yes, sir.
My name is Marlon Jones. I'm a retired firefighter from New Haven. Live in Hamden. Also an Air Force veteran. And I have a product. I have a full utility patent for it. They're called stackers. And I'm looking to take my product here and take it to another level. So I'd like to pass these out. I'd like to get some information from you guys in order to help me achieve this.
So it's a continuum. People come to all these workshops that we have and panels, and they are in various stages of development. You're obviously in a slightly more advanced, but there's other places you need to go, right?
Yes.
And so I would say to the panel, I'm sure his contact information is readily available, and you should take every one of their cards, or as many of the cards as possible, to get advice, and stick around afterwards and talk to them individually. And it sounds like you have another customer, Richard.
Well, actually, full disclosure, Mr. Jones and I have met, now that I see this. We have met, and for whatever reason, we ceased to meet, but certainly let's revisit this.
Because what I'm looking for is web design, funding, business plan, and obviously, taking the business to the next level. Pass it around.
And does Frank have anything to offer for our veterans?
Of course, we have we have the micro loan program right right down the street. We have we call it the VBOC, Veterans Business Outreach Center. We have a great team here in Connecticut. They're out of Providence, but we have a great team here in Connecticut. We have a workshop coming up at University of Hartford the first week in May. So if you give me your card, or I'll give you one of my cards, I'll send you. We have some programs that we can probably help you with.
Excellent.
These products here, they're used with most stainless steel disposable aluminum food trays to stack the trays. Because most folks that utilize any of the food trays, number one problem is the top tray of food always falls into the pan below. This has a full patent and everything like that on a full utility patent. I've been to Chicago at a inventors thing. Been to New York at the Javits Convention Center for a restaurant show in order to show off the product and everything like that. And most of the people that I've shown the product to, it's been something where they've said, "Where have you been all this time?" Because they're in, obviously
Right.
restaurant business.
Right.
I'd like to talk with everybody afterwards. I don't want to steal your
Yeah, that's okay. Excellent. No, it's really good. For the viewing audience who will see this video, this is exactly what we want. We want from the continuum from the beginning to somebody who's already in progress. How about in the back? Any questions back there? No, just happy to be here. Gentleman in the back, the young man, any? No, go. I think that, oh, yes.
In reference to what you were saying in pursuing your passion. The passion that I have is kind of a twofold. So how would you, it spreads out into kind of three separate entities within it. So how do you take it, because the basis of it would ultimately be the nonprofit, but how do I fix it so that it works for me as well?
So there's multiple layers here.
Yes.
Okay, quick answer, I don't know right now. But what, there's no problem in having 3, 4 separate ideas. Whether or not they could be congealed into one business entity, maybe, maybe not. That's why I say, I said it jokingly, but I really wouldn't be able to advise you until I know the specifics of each one of those pursuits that you're talking about.
They actually all kind of work together.
Okay,
It's with special needs individuals, so it would actually branch off into logistics for travel, it would branch off into residential, it would branch off into education. So it's kind of it's a threefold, but the main base of it is pretty much the nonprofit that deals with the specific need of special needs.
okay. I would really have to meet with you and learn more. It is not inconceivable that you could have one legal business entity to serve as the holding company and to have subsets or DBAs functioning under that either corporate entity. So there's all kinds of ways. We might have to set up separate legal entities if they're not in any way related. But there's as many answers as there are configurations that you can imagine. But we would have to sit down so that I could best advise you of what I feel would work best for you.
Most chambers of commerce now and business organizations recognize that nonprofits are employers, and they employ a lot of people, particularly in this region of the state with New Haven and Yale and all the other institutions in the area. So we treat nonprofits, and although it's the Business Assistance Center that Richard is in charge of, he has free reign to meet with nonprofits who might want, and even churches sometimes. They basically form entities within the church. A lot of them do daycare, job training, lots of things. But it ends up employing people and resulting in other people getting a job. All right, hey, we'll take one more question, then I want to leave a few minutes because we have to be out of the room at 8. If there's no other questions, I'm just going to turn it off here, and I really thank you very much for coming tonight. And we will be showing this all over town in the very near future. As soon as Rob gets his editing shoes on, we'll be all set to go. But thanks for coming, and feel free to talk to the panelists. Thanks a lot.